The roles of Lady Macbeth. I quote, "There is some difficulty about Lady Macbeth's character, though not in the sense of any doubt of Shakespeare's design. Her behavior before and after the deed contradicts the psychological law of unchangeableness and fixity which Shakespeare usually maintains. It is not psychological and understandable effect, but something magical and demonical that is attributed to conscience." Gustav Rumlin. So far as Lady Macbeth is concerned, her character's caricature is concealed in some unknown darkness of the critic's ability to face the murk of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, if not Shakespeare. The only shield the critics had is but realizing the problems of the character. Anyway, it would not be genuine to talk much about the inability of the critics than to laud the glory of the creation of Shakespeare. I quote, "We never know them, Macbeth, under conditions of normality. It is perhaps for this reason that both characters have been interpreted by critics and depicted by actors in widely different and contradictory ways. Lady Macbeth has been described as a fiend incarnate, or as a wife who dares all for love, remorseless woman ridden by ambition, or a helpless dupe of the devil." Margaret Webster. It is perhaps the best criticism found with the history of Shakespearean criticism. The more we see, the less we gain. Maybe like a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing. But one thing that strikes our attention is that there is no fault in the many phases of the design of the characters. And this gives further way to hope in Shakespeare's great device creations. Whether it is magical or demonical, there should be some truth about the multi-faces of Lady Macbeth. The study for the truth involves so many factors as, I quote, "The fullest exploration of the theme occurs in the relation of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. The exploration of Lady Macbeth's character involves almost every aspect of the drama. Naturally, mainly, 1. Her relation to Macbeth. The other aspects to be discussed are 2. Lady Macbeth and the witches. 3. Lady Macbeth before her appearance. 4. Lady Macbeth's great pursuit. 5. A perfect wife. 6. Sleepwalker. Role 1. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. Oneness. If someone says that the play should be retitled as Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, he would not be an unworthy critic. And if someone says that the play should be retitled as Lady Macbeth, his retitling is praiseworthy. After all, Shakespeare, the world's best dramatist, should know all this, and his deeds are deeper than original. To my understanding, Lady Macbeth is a creation of dramatic convenience. She is not only the embodiment of ambition or evil, when she herself is really like an angel, and she could be interpreted as the outcome of the ambition of Shakespeare to achieve some of the impossible effects of the play. Even in the whole range of world drama, her whole frame is clearly felt when the artificial devilish role is removed. It is clear as the heart of an angel. She is not inhabited with the sort of things a human being naturally does. Ego is what we can't smell in Lady Macbeth. It is a strange thing I have felt with a character in the history of fiction. Of course, this has become the eternal beauty of the character, which even clears the uncleanness of the heads of hers. She could enter into the hearts of any reader with such tenderness that no other character possibly ever did. Her every moment with her husband tells us so much of a true companion's love. If there is no such deed as murder, they would not be seen as two beings, but one like two things, heart and brain of a single being. But for the deed, they would not talk or even observe the feelings of the other, and look like as if they are with every nerve network to continue as a single being. When they suffer the worst, they would not utter a single word accusing the other. The balance would be impossible. When any of such pair float in the fires of hell, the relation is clearly found in some of the acts of Lady Macbeth in her sleepwalking. The gentlewoman says, I quote, Since His Majesty went into the field, I have seen her rise from her bed, throw her nightgown upon her, unlock her closet, take forth paper, fold it, write upon it, read it, afterwards seal it, and again return to bed. At all this while in a most fast sleep. This writing letter should be of great importance to her. But we do not know Lady Macbeth writing a letter to anybody except reading the letter of Macbeth when she first appears to us. This particular act is only Macbeth's. And Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are not two persons. They are one. For the convenience of his dramatic achievements, Shakespeare had brilliantly created this wonderful dramatic device. Here in this scene, there are details to prove Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are one. The letter in the play is given great importance by Shakespeare. Satan's first evil thought to equal him with God is here dramatized. The letter here is like a bond, great bond. Macbeth himself has confirmed by accepting with the two sides of his mind, or the ambition overpowering the natural phenomena of opposing evil thinking. Why this new type of doubling a character is found? Because the dramatic majesty of Shakespeare is overflowing here in this play and endowed with deep understanding. What are God and Son? It is beyond what we can explain. But there are ways. God created man, and after, the woman out of man, and then felt that it was good. Man and woman are one. Man is strong, woman is weak. God gave a companion to man from his flesh and bone, and here Shakespeare gave a companion to Satan, Macbeth, with his flesh, bone, brain, heart, and soul. God forgot to give a companion to Satan, but not Shakespeare. Shakespeare, in his presentation of the particular character, followed this formula. Might be he logically expected the results of getting fulfillment. Further, he would have a process to show a fall with which we know the fall of Adam. So, some critics found that the fall resembles the fall of Satan and Adam too. Lady Macbeth and Eve relation also was discussed. So, here the character of Macbeth is made into two. The strong, majestic side of it is Macbeth, and Lady Macbeth, the other side of the character, the evil affected brain, or some sensitive side of an individual. He did so because it might be very difficult to show the exact struggle that goes on in a single individual, particularly in Satan, the first fallen one. But this great achievement of Shakespeare is not to be found so easily. One needs to grab hold of particular aspects of the roots of the mind behind this project and observe the oneness of the two characters and the very impossible connections that are made. To come to the point, the gentlewoman says, it is an accustomed action with her to seem thus washing her hands. I have known her continue in this a quarter of an hour. This maid says a continual act, and it is also represented as the main point in her suffering because the maid says it is her nature. So writing a letter and washing hands are shown very important and drastic factors that led her to this suffering. But they are not the acts of Lady Macbeth. They are Macbeth's. If we go back to Act 2, Scene 2, 75-79, Macbeth shows us his fierce smirk. What hands are here? Ha! They pluck out mine eyes. Will all great nephews oceans wash this blood clean from my hand? No. This my hand will rather the multitudinous seas incarnadine, making green one red. These lines are what exactly he or she means in a continual action. We know these moments are the strangest ones in the life of Macbeth when she starts speaking. At here is a spot indicates the continuity of the above line, and 2 in Act 2 scene 1 the words of Macbeth, hand on the blade, under John, gouts of blood, which was not so before. These 2 soliloquies of Macbeth in this scene carry much of the terrible business. The increase of the terror we see in Lady Macbeth. Lady Macbeth's out-damned spot, out I say, is Macbeth's. They pluck out mine eyes. Lady Macbeth's, why then it is time to do it, is Macbeth's. Wake Duncan with thy knocking. Only in these 2 lines we find the pure feeling of Duncan's well-wishing, of course in a different condition of mind. The feeling, hell is murky, we only smell in the murder scene, that too only with Macbeth. Lady Macbeth, who would have thought the old man to have so much blood in him? But Macbeth's, I am afraid to think what I have done. Look on it again, I dare not. Lady Macbeth's, here is the smell of the blood still. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. Oh, 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 is found with Macbeth. Will all great Neptune oceans green one red? I caught. She now experiences all that Macbeth suffered before the murder in real or visionary circumstances. Her monologue at the beginning of Act 5 is a counterpart to the earlier one of her husband's, Delirious. The doctor says, the heart is sorely charged. Yes, this intensity we only can observe and taste in Macbeth's Act 2 Scene 2, 2 great soliloquies. The repetition and continuity of the scene's intensity has to be observed here. Act 5 Scene 1, 43-46 lines, carries a special type of observation of an individual by himself. The Thane of Fife had a wife. In this line, the expression of deep sorry, surety of their doom are found. Even the sorry feeling for murdering them is also found. What will these hands never be clean? Also carries a lot of different effective meaning in it. A while ago, we had some lines on this point, but here another type of presenting the state of suffering. No more on that, my lord. 2 carries the feeling of deep sorry for his failure to keep the banquet. These 3 lines are not Lady Macbeth initiating the words she used, but here full suffering pertaining to his deeds. Act 5 Scene 162-64 lines is a direct one to say Lady Macbeth is not an individual. These dialogues are of both. But I tell you again, Banquo is buried. He cannot come out on his grave. She did not utter these words nor knew the thing. He cannot come out on his grave is not a straight feeling. Lady Macbeth is no way concerned to speak this. Come, to bed. Why Lady Macbeth repeats so many times? It represents the very strong piece of struggle Macbeth had undergone. This peak we can easily understand observing 2 lines of Macbeth. Wake Duncan with thy knocking, it would thou couldest. This is the feeling that tops the scene in every sense. Macbeth has gone to the peaks of suffering, and there at the end of the top of such suffering, the next second would be a complex one. Where exactly Macbeth uttered these lines? And this knocking only has got the very top power in it. So in these lines, Lady Macbeth utters repeatedly. Besides these aspects, there are some fundamental aspects that indicate the oneness of these 2 characters. For a keen observer, Macbeth or Lady Macbeth can't be accepted as individual characters. But for the psychological portrait, these 2 characters would be totally different. I quote, in its psychology, Macbeth is perhaps the deepest of Shakespeare's tragedies. But Macbeth himself is not a character, at least not in the sense of what was meant by a character in the 19th century. Lady Macbeth is such a character. Everything in her except craving for power has been burnt out. She is empty and goes on burning. John Cott. Ambition is what she is made up of. But this ambition is of Macbeth's only. Without ambition in the bosom of Macbeth, Macbeth would have never been able to produce so much deep poetry and vain craving. All we need to do is to see them both as one. Naturally, everyone does it unknowingly, and the effect would be full-fledged. I quote, "In ourselves we are imperfect, and it is possible to unite two separate beings so that they remain their own qualities and acquire those of the other." Coleridge. This is what we taste in married life. A perfect union of man and woman. Man and wife is a complex thing to bear with many indifferences, but to be unfaithful to each other and to carry on a mission which is away from what we call honorable in the society and to the conscience would really cause more awe and deviation to the oneness which they are and which they have to maintain. But this we see in Macbeth very differently. The mission is murder, and they retain their oneness in spite of their facing the hellish consequences all through their life. I quote, "The very terror of the murder scene only further emphasizes the closeness of the murderess." Rebner. If there are two individuals, the oneness would have never been achieved. So when she dies, it is not a thing he should particularly talk about, and it is something valuable to him he has lost, that is, some part of his mind or heart, and the result is the wine of life fully drawn out, and what is left is but the way to dusty death, which he himself welcomes. I quote, "His words on her death do not show lack of feeling. They express the utter shattering and emptiness of the inner man. Absolute hopelessness." Dachel Hauser. The uniformity of the changes in them is also observable. I quote, "Her reckless impulse is followed by reaction, and he who was deliberate becomes reckless." Morton Luce. Anyway, the result is achieved with a billion-fold effect. I quote, "The tragedy is double in scope and twofold in effect and interest. The state of sleepwalking is also felt in Macbeth very clearly." I quote, "I seem to see him in the first 4 acts of the play as a man who is hypnotized, seldom moving, but when he does so, moving as a sleepwalker. Later on in this play, the places are changed, and Lady Macbeth's sleepwalking is like the grim, ironical echo of Macbeth's whole life, a sharp, shrill echo, quickly growing fainter and gone. E. Gordon Craig. The duality is found in both characters, and the mixture of them alone shows us a character and its actions. I quote, "The duality of Macbeth's nature, of course, undeniable." Margaret Webster. Anyway, we cannot stop seeking further qualities and characteristics of Lady Macbeth, feeling that she is made with the material and idea of Macbeth's evil, which would end in losing the validity of Lady Macbeth's majestic qualities. I quote, "Lady Macbeth is truly a woman in that she does not see far or widely, but only one part of one idea to which she surrenders herself with her whole nature." Guizot. Besides the fundamental framing of Lady Macbeth's character, there is a lot to be discussed of her angelic qualities, her dedication and her deepest love for husband, which are exceptional in her. Before I proceed further in scanning her character, I need to discuss one aspect, that is how she is created, particularly the basic strength she shows us when we first see her, the connection of the passing of evil current. Role 2. The Witches and Lady Macbeth. As it is observed that she is only a part of Macbeth, particularly the evolution of an evil idea born in Macbeth, the process of the evolution should be at the point of the beginning of Macbeth, uttering the first words, So foul and fair a day I have not seen. In fact, these words are transmuted to Macbeth from the alien bodies, which is fair is foul and foul is fair. And the greeting of Lady Macbeth is exactly like the greeting of the witches, shows that the origin of Lady Macbeth's being and that she is the better and beautiful frame of the witches. I quote, "She would degenerate herself like the sisters. Like the sisters, she would be an instrument of darkness, creature of hellish atmosphere, of filthy air. She would make permanent the predictions of the sunset made by the third witch. Oh, never shall sun that morrow see." Herbert R. Carson Jr. The awe and hellish smell is same in both these characters. Shakespeare was very careful to show the relation between them. The place of the first scene is a deserted place. In the end of the first scene, the witches exeunt, but in the next scene, witches vanish. Why it differs so? The first scene is in the mind of Macbeth, so Shakespeare named it after a deserted place. The witches may be said as the thoughts of evil of Macbeth. So the thought did not vanish. But as Shakespeare ends the scene, they simply go to the green room. Then, in the next witch scene, as the thoughts are strengthened, and for the convenience of the dramatic purpose, Shakespeare changes the place to a heath, and the witches vanish. Because the purpose of the witches is over, and they evolve into another strong shape, that is Lady Macbeth. She continues the role with the link of the greeting, which is like that of the witches. One thing remarkable is the presence of the witches felt even though they really vanish. I quote, "On the stage, the spirits are never seen during the scene of Lady Macbeth. Neither we are conscious of their influence. Yet as we read the play, we are not only conscious of the influence of these sightless substances, we are conscious of their presence." Gordon Craig. This observation is worth observing. I quote, "Are there not moments in the play when one of these three spirits seems to have clapped skinny hand upon Lady Macbeth's mouth and answered in her stead? And who was it, if not one of them, who drew her by the wrist as she passed into the room of the old king with the two daggers in her hand? Who was it pushed her by the elbow as she smeared the faces of the grooms? Again, what is this dagger that Macbeth sees in the air? By what thread of hair it hangs? Who angles it? And whose is the voice heard as he returns from the chamber of the murdered king?" Gordon Craig. I quote, "The word sisters, says Gervinus, are simply the embodiment of inward temptation." Then why not Lady Macbeth their better shape? Besides this evolution of Lady Macbeth's character, there is another aspect to be observed. God could make Eve from the flesh and bone of Adam because he is God. But as Shakespeare, being a human being, could not dare so, so his Lady Macbeth had some previous character for continuity before she opens her mouth with the voice of the devil. Role 3. Lady Macbeth before her appearance. In her first scene, first appearance, Lady Macbeth is undoubtedly devilish, ambitious, wicked, and whatever critics could call. But my examination needs to assess her whether she was the same type of lady all through her career or after her marriage. To draw details pertaining to her previous life, Duncan's words are most trustworthy. When she enters, and when Duncan saw her coming toward him, in the heavenly atmosphere before Macbeth's castle, he was overfilled with undeserved loving kindness and joy. His expression, see, is embodied with an affection of the sort of divinity which is beyond human to feel and perceive. This scene is like one bright star in the midst of a dismal night, evil atmosphere of the play. And the one best sharing it with Duncan is Banquo and equally Lady Macbeth. In the 5th chapter, I was trying to compare this with that of the creation of Eve. Our honored hostess should undoubtedly be her character. A perfect lady, particularly the good wife of royal Macbeth. Herein I teach you how you shall bid God willed. Act 1, Scene 689. Further emphasize her qualities she had in her previous life, which are exemplary. Fair and noble hostess, we are your guests tonight. These words of Duncan in fact means something more. What one says all good about Lady Macbeth. And give me your hand, conduct me to mine host. Also reveals us a true father and child relation before the child had done the smallest sin of any sort. Macbeth gives us far clearer pictures. Why not? He is her husband. When the witches spoke prophetic words, immediately he writes a letter to his wife, that too with such details he had in his deep heart. In fact, Macbeth need not write a letter so urgently because he is on his way home. If he needs to write a letter, it does only mean that he assigns some important work to Lady Macbeth or conveys some message of greatest joy or sorrow. Some witches of an awkward sort, predicting like soothsayers, does not carry any such serious dealing. And if it is felt so important, he should have explained her what his writing aims. The thought of murder is not yet planned. They cannot expect the king to stay with them. Then the writing of letter would not under any circumstances reasonable, and this would be a great blunder on the part of Shakespeare to feed his plot illogically and wrongly. Anyway, we cannot doubt Shakespeare. There should be reasons beyond our comprehension. For now, we may take it as the deep relation between them. Even the way he wrote the letter is peculiar. It is as if he reviewed in his heart after the things happened. It shows us his deep involvement with her and their intimacy so deep. His addressing, my dearest partner of greatness, shows us her place in his heart. And Macbeth, so far as this good Lady Macbeth knows, his nature is full of the milk of human kindness. It is true, they both had all good relations in and around before the start of the evil. I quote, at the beginning of the play, their relationship is one of the closest and most intimate in all literature. Irving Ribner. If Lady Macbeth were not good, she should have not kept quiet, or should have pursued Macbeth to do some evil so that his personality would not at all be noble. He has brought gold and opinion from all sorts of people, and the reason for this greatness or nobleness should be, by all means, Lady Macbeth. This we know through his writing the letter to her. She knows all tender feelings, the tender love of a mother, the sweetness of the blessing to give suck, and the satisfaction that a smile of a babe gives. This she knows even though she has no children, and this clearly shows us her brain's receptive power towards the good things. Even under the power of wine she could not forget the fatherly love. Had he not resembled my father? It is strange and somehow illogical that Lady Macbeth, who could dash the brains of her babe, why can't she kill her father, when the death could give glorious reward or title to her husband? And two, it is only she who really prepared Macbeth for the deed murder, and if she remembers her father in an old king in her drunken condition, it's all what shows us the good nature before she takes up the assignment. Break the enterprise to me. After the murder is over, and when her hands are of Macbeth's color, her words, but I shame to wear a heart so white, clearly shows the spotless heart of Lady Macbeth. When the murdered king is the center of her shocked mind, Macbeth addresses her, "Oh, gentle lady," and denies telling her the news of the death. It's not for you to hear what I can speak. The repetition in a woman's ear would murder as it fell. And when she faints, Macbeth cares for her. Look to the lady. When all others are well involved in other serious thinking, it shows Macduff's special interest in Lady Macbeth. Perhaps he was much impressed. He is the hero of the powers above, and his interest in Lady Macbeth costs much. Undoubtedly, the drawing of the chapter is complex, yet its vivid faces and phases are clearly observable. Here we can take it for granted that Lady Macbeth, before her appearance, if at all she did, led a life of an angel. Role 4. Devilish Lady. If one says that Shakespeare should have never thought of creating such a monstrous lady, it cannot be any less to Shakespearean criticism. Perhaps for this reason, Shakespeare might have attributed so many qualities that finally the image of the monstrous lady would be really pitied as the meekest vessel of man's or devil's ambition. But the question is, why Shakespeare, who had a better understanding of a woman and most of his characters are so cute and lovable, here defiled his mind and penned by amplifying the impossible filthy qualities of a lady? A wise man's answer is, without hesitation, for a noble cause, because it is Shakespeare in whom we can put our trust. The question, what noble cause it should be, could be easily answered if we accept that she had done everything for her husband, and this would attribute her the wife best loved her husband. But the question is whether a lady like Lady Macbeth could act so? No. And there are some aspects which give us way that something more in Lady Macbeth is to be revealed. It would be a tremendous question how Lady Macbeth would be if she comes onto the stage without the letter. Perhaps the whole theme would be pale without the letter. When the drama runs with an amount of great pace, the entrance of Lady Macbeth with the letter undoubtedly accelerates the whole action. Her first appearance and her action are completely molded with the letter. To a fair thinking, the letter's impact should be illogical. Its contents are as simple as common man's praise for the royal people. The witches, just 3 old women, foretelling something should have not been taken so seriously by Macbeth. If Macbeth certifies their words as perfect report, he could have not been a noble man. As Macbeth in Act 2, Scene 2 is seen sinful, we may assess that he had desired for the kingship. But there is no possibility for Lady Macbeth through the letter to know Macbeth's ambition for kingship, and what made her to be so serious is not clearly known at a stretch. The first words of Lady Macbeth, "Glamis the wart and Cawdor, and shall be what the wart promised." And her first words to Macbeth, "Great Glamis, worthy Cawdor, greater than both, by the all hail hereafter," resembles the words of the witches. All hail Macbeth! Hail to thee, Thane of Glamis! All hail Macbeth! Hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor! All hail Macbeth, that shall be king hereafter. This gives way to know some unknown matters about Lady Macbeth's monstrousness. The opinion that the witches degenerate as Lady Macbeth is reasonable. Now it would be possible for Lady Macbeth to see the current of the vaulting ambition of Macbeth, and the plan should only be given by Macbeth. If Lady Macbeth, a decent shape of the witches, could plan or order Macbeth, why the witches could not do it? No one could act upon a man without his acceptance. Lady Macbeth too should have not had any ability to plan and finalize. Hie thee thither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise the valor of my tongue, all that impedes thee from the golden round. Besides that, she pretty well knew and confident about the metaphysical aid, which fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have the crowned withal. It is a prophecy. Only if she believes in witches and metaphysical aid, and Macbeth too, she should have planned even before many years ago, which can't be believable at all. All things, it seems, as if they have started all of a sudden now. This is strange and mysterious. Perhaps all started with the words of the witches, "Foul is fair, and fair is foul. So foul and fair a day I have not seen. If such strange thing starts the play, the beginning of Lady Macbeth's character should also be the same. Something strange and new. All are hypnotized, even we too. She had a role here, undoubtedly more than a lady. She plays main part. When she hears the words, "The king comes here tonight," her words, "Thou art mad to say it," had such a power that the expression is strange and possibly impossible to be uttered by a lady or a man. There is great strength in the mind of the one who utters. The next feeling of Lady Macbeth would be, naturally, of guilt and fear, but none of them are found. Besides that, the monster's shape is clearly visible now. "Come, ye spirits, that tend on mortal thoughts." She speaks as if they were her friends. Perhaps so. And what she wants to do is, "Unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe, topful of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood, top of the acres, and passage to remorse." All looks like mere words of drama, not with any possibility of drawing some meaning out of them. This is all what exactly a woman cannot lose at all under any circumstances. She cannot utter these lines. It is an impossibility in any possibility. But one thing that makes us believe is the strength of Shakespeare in drawing his characters and plots. And one strange thing is that she gets what all she asks the spirits, as immediately as she asked. And the main thing that puzzles is that why she should unsex her. Why can't she do whatever murder it might be, being a woman? Why, there are many women who killed many with their strength of sex only. Even calling the murdering ministers, who, whether existing or fictitious, should be a perverted act. If she is perverted, she should never had the strength to plan, pursue, and achieve, particularly in these circumstances. All this clearly shows the existence of a monster in Lady Macbeth, and the first 60 lines of gradual transformation of Lady Macbeth into a devilish shape is visible. The prediction of the witches, greater than both by the all hail hereafter, once again repeated here and confirms immediately. "Oh, ever shall sun that morrow see." And it is done. The strength of a devil is what Lady Macbeth had showed to set the plan and settle Macbeth. It would not be a strange thing if Macbeth is treated as a slave of Lady Macbeth. She looks upon him as a product of her. She has confidence and had nothing to think whether Macbeth would ever oppose her. All is determined. What puzzles us is the relation between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. She asks him, "And you shall put this night's great business into my dispatch." Her asking is not like asking at all. It is as if they both need it. Fletcher says, this is exactly what her husband has been looking for. But Macbeth, though his soul craves for such a sin, he cannot accept, as he pretty well knew, what devil it is asking, and what monstrous act it would be if done. We will speak no further. But Lady Macbeth pretty well knew that these words are of the lips and not of the bottom of the heart. She herself is the bottom of the heart, now with the power of evil, and continues in her own way so smoothly. Only look up clear, to alter favor ever is fear. Leave all the rest to me. But this soft voice changes to the utmost opposite when she needs. When Macbeth need her, "I have no spur." Lady Macbeth enters. Perhaps she knew what tone of voice she should impose on him, that she might conquer his God-given qualities and to become a devil of the sort, the one now hissing in Lady Macbeth. She starts with a slight accusation, mingled with a soft touch of well-wishing and deep affection. He has almost supped. "Why have you left the chamber?" The voice strengthens. When she had understood the cold state of Macbeth in his words, "Hath he asked for me?" and says, "Nay, not." he has. A sort of allergy is found towards Macbeth's strength of sticking to the truth. We will proceed no further in this business. She further raises her voice with a suitable reminding of his hope, which pitches like a spear into his state of mind and would really create some wound to his weakness to come into the evil, or his strength to leave the path of truth. Was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself? Hath it slept since? She has here exhibited great intellect. Any other words would have given chance for further discussion, and the thought of murder would have vanished. Because it is Macbeth who declared, "We will proceed no further in this business." But what outright dominating role this lady plays is not clearly perceivable. She knows the topmost secrets of Macbeth and she uses his weaknesses as her weapons. And now she puts forth his flaw hope. We can be very clear of her knowledge about his hope, which perhaps should have transmitted through the letter, which was formed in the first witch scene. Fair is foul and foul is fair. Now here is another state of Macbeth. Prithee peace, I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares no more is none. Macbeth has accepted that there is hope or ambition in him. Yet there is some strange fundamental problem he is facing. It is beyond man's reach, perhaps divine or supernatural. So he submits himself perfectly, and possibly there should not be any possibility for Lady Macbeth to further continue this talk towards a positive end. But she has really got the keys of the abyss of Macbeth's heart and soul. Here we see the full-fledged shape of the monster in Lady Macbeth, and also a secret pertaining to their relation. What beast was it then that made you break this enterprise to me? When you just do it, then you were a man, and to be more than what you were, you would be so much more than a man. Through these words, it is clearly understood that Macbeth has surrendered himself to Lady Macbeth for a cause, and when he wants to withdraw from the mission, Lady Macbeth would not accept. And further she shows her mastery over Macbeth and would not let him go from the path she has laid. Undoubtedly, Lady Macbeth is devilish here. She, without hesitation, declares his confident appeal. Who dares no more is none. Even she would not give a thought to his appeal. She had her own doctrine. She imposes her doctrine on him and explains, when you just do it, then you are a man. It won't be seen at all as a mission or conspiracy carried out by the peasants, but Lady Macbeth pursuing her victim Macbeth and pulls towards the feet. As I discussed in the chapter, the role of evil, the beast in Macbeth, should be Lady Macbeth only. And all this is the dramatization of the conflict that goes on in the mind of Macbeth. I have given suck and know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out had I so sworn. She uses all her strength and intellect to settle Macbeth. Whether she could do to her baby what she has said is not so difficult to understand, provided we confirm the different states of Lady Macbeth's character. If Lady, as she looks, were the dupe of the devil, she could do it. And the force of Lady Macbeth in this scene has got the evil to do what is said here. Without the strength of such evil, Lady Macbeth could have not so dealt as she did in this scene. Through these words, it is clearly understood that Macbeth has surrendered himself to Lady Macbeth for a cause. And when he wants to withdraw from the mission, Lady Macbeth would not. Macbeth is settled and bent up by Lady Macbeth's great pursuit. If we should fail, clearly indicates his emptiness to fight against Lady Macbeth for his we will proceed no further in this business. Lady Macbeth, as immediately as she heard this, all of a sudden, in astonishment, responds to Macbeth's words mechanically. We fail. These words are simply from her lips, with the strength of the laughter that started in her throat when she comes to know Macbeth's acceptance. Her main part of the mission is over. Now she speaks something mechanically, to which the hypnotized Macbeth nods like a babe to its grandmother's tale. And as the babe claps in applause for her grandmother, Macbeth says, "Bring forth men children only." Now Lady Macbeth speaks as freely as a man snots in his sleep. We shall make our griefs and clamour roar. Really, it is the only time Lady Macbeth is fully heard by Macbeth. She has won. That's all. Role 5. A perfect wife, dearest partner. That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. There is some change found in the character of Lady Macbeth. What wine hath made her harsh? In the previous devilish scene, here her voice is changed, her pattern of speeches, and the intensity of the tone too. She took wine, and what happened is different. The grooms drank and they are drunk, but she is made bold. There should be a dire need for her to make herself bold, and it should be from her previous devilishness. For a particular reason, the devilishness has vanished, and what we see is a different lady. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. There is other need which she got by drinking, that in the fight to strengthen her to do the remaining job. But the fire is totally different from the devilish current that of the previous. It is understood that she had a mission now too, a predestined role to be played by her. Hark, please. It was the owl that shrieked. Hark with a little suddenness and then little pause. Peace. With a slow and strong voice that sounds on the lips. The line gives us much clearer picture about herself and her state. The shrieking of the owl appeals her as it should have to a common lady. And in the next few lines, she narrates the things with a tone of no emotion. At her consent for the murder is found, but not any way with such intensity she had before. Alack, I am afraid they have awakened. The wine might not be a strong one to keep some kick in this lady. No, the grooms have enough kick to provide success to Macbeth as well as Shakespeare. There is something strange in her, not the first strangeness, which keeps her wine without savour, yet can't take away her sex at all. She is as simple as any good lady, yet some strange education is seen in her, and it is not done. The attempt, and not the deed, confounds us. Hark! Yes, all her mind is filled with the thinking of the success of the deed. But one thing to be observed is that her involvement to the murder in the previous scene was different. And here we find the voice of Macbeth. If we should fail, not her voice, we will not fail, but her concern is the same, confounds us. And too, as the devilishness had vanished now, I would be very clear that her concern is only for her husband and not for this pretty lady. I laid the daggers ready. It's like a student telling to his teacher mechanically. It does all mean that she had no strength to stand in these circumstances, yet by some strange dedication she is struggling to withstand. The strength of the dedication is here found in her words. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done it. Though it is impossible for her to bear such an idea as this, she really means these words, and it is how she dedicated herself to her husband. One other aspect, the one that dashes the brains of her baby, can't she kill some old man who perhaps resembled her father? The answer would not be found in a direct way, and the total change of the character of Lady Macbeth should be known. Her husband has come. She saw him and said, "My husband." She knew that he is Macbeth, and in her voice there is strength, because her loneliness has vanished in such awe-inspiring and most frightening moments, and the one that has come is the most dearest one to her. The exclamation indicates her doubt, which is natural in the crucial end of any event. He tells her immediately, I have done the deed. And a small question follows these important words. Didst thou hear a noise? Lady Macbeth immediately, as she had no thought of any other thing in her soul, answers carefully. If it were the devilish lady of the previous scene, she should have not had his small question, but the words, I have done the deed, should have reverberated in her ears, and her total shape, expression, and words should have been different. But her lady's concern about a small question reveals us so much we essentially need. That is, Lady Macbeth's deep dedication for her husband. She wants to do the even smallest thing for him, which would do the minutest help to Macbeth. We must see the state of mind behind the words we read to weave a better thinking about this lady. The discussion continues, but not on the deed that is done, until Macbeth says, This is a sorry sight. To which Lady Macbeth very immediately replies, with strong words which weighed the strength of her love, her dedication. A foolish thought, which is an outright condemnation of his statement, and further she emphasizes her truth by repeating the same expression in the same words to say a sorry sight. She is so sensitive to grasp in no time how much pain the words, this is a sorry sight, created in the sweet heart of Macbeth. This sensitivity gives us way to know how intellectual she should have been. And if such an intellectual loves her husband with great dedication, the power of love would be amplified to the possible extent which makes us remember that both are one. Her consoling words would not affect Macbeth. And he continues speaking in the same tone of terror, relating what happened. One did laugh in his sleep, and she in her pale struggle to console him simply tries to say something and could only say, There are two lodged together. She should have told him something else if her intellect could have provided, but in such a situation nothing is possible to stop his agony. What we could observe is her soul struggling only for him, and he continues relating what happened here. One cried, God bless us, and amen the other. I could not say amen. Hearing these words, she realizes the nothingness of her struggle to console him, and the shattering of her mind is found in her powerless words, Consider it not so deeply. Now, no effect of wine is found, no traces of her brutality, ambition, or confidence. Undoubtedly, she had no thought of herself. Only she watches him with eyes all over her body. The reason for her state of mind should be, by all means, her exceptional love and dedication for her husband. The pathetic description of Macbeth continues with great poetic and tragic beauty, touching and spreading through the unknown places of a man's heart and soul. But wherefore could I not pronounce amen? It is such an innocent, empty state where Macbeth is now at this moment. It seems he has really forgot what he has done, and he only wondering for why such an impossible thing, not I pronounce amen, happened. He is truly like a sleepwalker. Further, he emphasizes the terror he had undergone. I had most need of blessing, and amen struck in my throat. It would be better for her to die than to hear such words, with eyes gazing upon, particularly for a person who is much loved. This is what happened, and Lady Macbeth got scared. No traces of devilish lady are found, and she could have not even able to open her mouth except watching like a statue. Further, she knows she should not deprive him of the least solace that some dear one is by his side. So she speaks. These deeds must not be thought after these ways, so it will make us mad. In fact, these words won't lighten the effect Macbeth had. Besides, she is telling what would really happen. Make us mad. These words she should have not thought of uttering, if she at all knows that's going to happen. She only spoke because she has to speak. And these words show how upset she is. And the saga of the story of the oceans of terror in the heart of Macbeth continues. The still voice he heard, "Sleep no more." Chief nourisher in life's feast, she struggles to stop the whirlpools when she can't. And she says, "What do you mean?" Which are pale words. Perhaps she could not be able to measure the depths of the terror, which is the last wish to know, when a loving one can't help her beloved. But the fact is that there is no bottom to Macbeth's sighing. He, as if he has not heard the words of his dearest lady, says, "Still it cried, 'Sleep no more! Macbeth shall sleep no more!'" Oh, she is gathering her strength, less strength. Once she rebuked him, moved him into a monster, but now too she is preparing her tone of that sort to make him forget the monstrous agony. The image, "Sleep no more," is the greatest creation of Shakespeare, and it spreads throughout the play in different degrees with romantic tint, with such effect like "to be or not to be." The greatest of the conflicts ever created by human writers. Who was it thus cried? "Why, Vadithen, you do unbend your noble strength to think so brain sickly of things. Go get some water and wash this filthy witness from your hand. She has girded her loins, gathered strength, and has come to consciousness. And all this is done only with the strength of her love she had. She could have not felt what Macbeth really is if she were devilish as we saw. This behavior is an impossible one, and surely Shakespeare should be accused for his baseless construction of a character. Her strength is increased, the hypnotic state is dissolved, and now she could even think of the faults and further course of the deeds. And why did you bring these daggers from the place? They must lie there. Go carry them and smear the sleepy grooms with blood. She is successful to a better extent. Macbeth responds to her words. He has come out of his terrible fit. "I will go no more. I am afraid to think what I had done. Look on it again, I dare not." She is an intellectual and she could grasp the change in her husband and is happy. Now she would do whatever is needed, even if to kill Duncan. So she goes with their daggers. This is a splendid creation of Shakespeare's genius in presenting a lady who has loved the best, even beyond the best. She leaves him because she is confident that he would not fall into the fit again. And really, she does her duty, which naturally satisfies Macbeth. But when she enters the room of the grooms, she is what she is only. So she has no dare at all to step into the room, but did it and lost her control. Did something in smearing the blood and in placing the daggers. She is no doubt a lady, and we heard all others praising for her goodness. She does all that she actually can't, only because of her husband. When she comes to Macbeth, she grabs hold of little more strength and speaks fluently and even wittily. "My hands are of your color. A little water clears off the deed." How easy it is then. The fainting of Lady Macbeth, too, has got something special that shows us the duties of this true wife. There is no possibility for her fainting. Then there should be something very strange than the unbearable pain of her husband, which she watched with all consciousness. Let us believe for a while she had really fainted. The only reason should be Macbeth amidst of many honorable courtiers, when all of them were watching him, struggling to act to show that he is innocent. This should have struck her at the very core of her ego. This should be a good reason for her fainting. Then if she faints, we cannot attribute her the very special degree, the best wife, that gave all she had for her husband, because if she faints, she cannot at least give him company which would be of some strength to face the horrible situation. And the true chance of saving him in the coming moments would really be lost. So she should not faint at all. But one thing that should be observed is that by the time she faints, it may be supposed that Macbeth might be observed guilty by those watching him. And if the patches of his speeches continue, Macbeth may be fully found guilty. On the other hand, the strength of Macbeth's power to act is decreasing, and the danger of Macbeth, full of milk, confessing his crime is also there. Why not such a thought flashed in the mind of Lady Macbeth? If so, the essential thing is that there should be some deviation of the attention of all, and only the fainting of Lady Macbeth has got the natural power of such a thing. So perhaps she faints, and the situation is totally changed, no doubt. Now, the reasoning power of Lady Macbeth alone would provide a way to find her, the most dearest wife. In Act 3, Scene 1, Lady Macbeth appears as queen. The discussion that Lady Macbeth was ambitious, her appearance and behavior should prove to be so. But on the contrary, no exhibition of such royalty is found. Only one dialogue she had, addressing and praising Banquo. If he had been forgotten, it had been a gap in our great feast, and all things unbecoming. Using the words all things unbecoming is very peculiar. Anyway, her respect and honoring Banquo shows her honorable. In fact, these words are in a continuation and in support of the words of Macbeth. Here is our chief guest. So, she has not exhibited anything of the sort of an ambitious lady. She is as gentle as it is. Her next presence in Act 3, Scene 2 also shows her as the same lady, dear wife. If it is her leisure time, her deeds naturally shows her true character. She does not start with strange soliloquies or sing glory of her queen or plan for future achievements. She asks her servant to say to their king that she would attend his leisure. Perhaps she wants to kiss him and entertain. When he comes, she quickly reads his face and feelings and bursts out, "How now, my lord? Why do you keep alone?" It shows us that she in her leisure time was only thinking of Macbeth and wanted to give him company with the hope of safeguarding from his fears. When she saw him with sorry face, she immediately starts preaching of sorriest fancies your companions making, using those words which should indeed have died. With them they think on. Things without all remedy should be without regard. What is done is done. She spoke these words in view of his having little leisure and his slight freshness of mind, which is without further strange business. But we know that he has been planning the murder of Banquo. So her dose of preaching would not cure or cool down him. And when she hears his further deadly fears, "Better be with the dead, the torture of the mind. Duncan is in his grave," she is shocked, and what she thought that all is calm is now not so, and becomes more terrible as ever. What can she say? Only, "Come on." It is not any preaching or anything that is hopeful. It is nothing but expressions of her anxiety to safeguard him. Further she says, "Be bright and jovial among your guests tonight." He continues as he did after the deed, and she too continues supporting him even when there is no hope of comforting him. Says, "You must leave this." Now he reveals the reason for his fears. "Thou knowest that Banquo and his fiancée lives," she replies, "but in them nature copies no return." Here she is innocent of what Macbeth plans, and she is completely unaware of any further crime. Now her heart is wide, And what made her so devilish previously is different. And if it is her nature, she cannot be so as she is now. When he tells her, "There shall be done a deed of dreadful note," she innocently asks, "What is to be done?" Macbeth won't tell her and says to her to be innocent of the knowledge of the deed. And starts the prologue. "Come, sealing night." In fact, this was the role of Lady Macbeth played for the first murder. "Come, ye spirits." What happens here is that Macbeth himself is planning the role too. So it would be possible to assess that the devilish role Lady had played might not be the true character of Lady Macbeth, but was made to. Might be by Shakespeare for the convenience of the dramatic technique. After all, Lady Macbeth here is dear wife and dearest chunk. In the beginning of the banquet scene, Lady Macbeth is cheerful because her lord is happy, welcoming the guests. And in continuation of her lord's words, she says, "Pronounce it for me, sir, to all our friends. For my heart speaks, they are welcome." The moment is perhaps the sweeter one, we observe. But how long it lasts is different. The murderer has come and the countenance of Macbeth falls. Again her same old duty of safeguarding her lord. How meek she is. "My royal lord, you do not give the cheer. The feast is sold." And goes on telling him as a teacher teaches. But the fit has come again as the ghost of Banquo becomes visible to Macbeth. With him, she too had the fit and her same old struggle to safeguard him. Once again in the midst of the courtiers, he has become a fool. Ross says, "Gentlemen, rise. His Highness is not well." Lady Macbeth, with her cleverness, controls the situation before it grows worse. "Sit, worthy friends. My lord is often thus," and she lies. What can she do for her dear one? Anything. Further she lies. The fit is momentary upon a thought. It is what she wanted to be. What all is done should be forgotten as a thought. She turns to him and says, "Are you man?" Not out of hatred, but out of sheer love, and thinking that this one expression would relieve him from the terror kick. She does not know that the fit lasts forever. Poor lady, she bursts out with a low voice, "Oh, proper stuff," and uses her intellect to dismantle the fit by telling him, "This is the very painting of your fear, and this is the air-drawn dagger." Further says it is like a woman's story. What else is possible to say? She did everything. But the fit is in its peaks. He is screaming through the words, which would be able to kill Lady Macbeth. What is left to do or to say? She too screams through words, but in an useful way. What? The strange expression and a tone of shrewdness, and abuses him. Quite comment in folly, hoping that the dose would cure him to come out of the fit. He comes down by her harsh words and says, "If I stand here, I see him," like a child responding to his father's rebuke. She smells his condition and uses more stern words, which come so roughly out of her mouth. "Fie, for shame!" No, she can't stop his fit. He really grows worse, even deadly, and utters strange matters. She knows she had no way to stop him. Pale she is, says, "My worthy lord, your noble friends do lack you." There is no strength in her words. She knows it. It says only because she has to say something. And what comes out of her mouth, she said. But these words work on Macbeth. He comes to normality. Again the fit comes. She only gazes at him. She knew she can't help him. There would not be any other worse state of a wife than this. He is suffering and she is gazing until he becomes a man again. Then says the bare fact, "You have displaced the mirth, broke the good meeting with most admired disorder. And when it is better to dispatch the guests, She says, "At once, good night." After they went off, Macbeth had continued speaking strange things, and she would not disturb him but give him a chance to see that his dear one is hearing him. In fact, she would not hear when he says, but only think what she should do. When he asks what is the night, she simply answers with the hope of deviation of his mind. So happened, he talks about Macbeth, and immediately she questions concerning Macbeth that he might continue speaking about Macbeth and not of the fit. So happened, he prolongs his speech on Macbeth. When she feels it is possible to stop him, she intervenes and says something, "You lack the season of all natures," and concludes by saying, "Sleep." And he goes with her to sleep. It is immaterial what lady could do in keeping Macbeth peaceful, but it is wonderful to try to know how great she struggles in trying to safeguard her husband as a true wife. She has done her best than any other that is read in the man-written literature. Role 4. Sleepwalker. All through the play, the true character of Lady Macbeth has been in sleep, and we see the dedicated lady. But here, only in her sleepwalking, we see the true lady, and how she was suffering all through the play in her true character's sleep. The writing of the letter perhaps indicates the disguise of her true character. After she had read the letter of her husband, only after the letter she was made the incarnation of the devil. One particular thing is that no hatred is found towards the letter or any other thing that caused her suffering. All this indicates her willingness to sacrifice her joy for her husband. Darkness hovers through the whole drama. And with Macbeth's. But what really Lady Macbeth is, she carries a light, which means she hates darkness. Washing hands is an accustomed action, that too for a continuous quarter of an hour. It would be strange to wash hands in anyone's sleepwalking for a continuous quarter of an hour. This reveals her hypocrisy in her previous scenes. To boast, a little water clears us of the deed. Dash the brains. But when she shows the same love towards her husband, who is the sole reason for her suffering, we can't say Lady Macbeth as a hypocrite or boasted of her. The mixture of two things is found. Her deep allergy towards the deed. At the same time, she herself prepared to do it for her husband. Yet here is a spot. Here is the smell of the blood still. Indicates how much she suffered when the deed was done. But she did never speak a single word, and she was always struggling to help her husband's ambition. The Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? Shows Lady Macbeth as a kind and generous lady. No more on that, my lord. No more on that. Should be about Macbeth's continuous fearing after the two murders, and warns him not to think much on that which makes us mad. She ends her role in this scene only after taking Macbeth to bed. Come, 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 give me your hand. What is done can't be undone. To bed, to bed, to bed. Perhaps now Macbeth forgot all he had done and gives his hand to his lady, and the lady takes him to her bed, and might be telling so many things, placing his head on her breast. If so, it is a sweet dream to lady before she dies, that there would be some meaning and satisfaction for what she had done, dedicating all that she had. Now even her life. After all, this sleepwalking scene is a bless to Lady Macbeth, who, like an Indian wife, is made to stick to her husband completely. Now at least she got the freedom to speak what she feels, and to wash her hands, and to once again prove her to be the greatest God-given wife. To love her husband when it is beyond her ability. We don't know whether she knows that she spoke freely in her sleepwalk. If she knows that, she would be happy, for she had a chance to show her audience that she was not what they knew.